Hey y'all, Jedz here, tuning in. I'm doing the 45,000 mile review. We're at 45,000 miles. Yep. On my 2018 Triumph Bonneville T120. So as you can see, it's pretty decent shape. Got some blemishing going on. Not running a stock exhaust anymore. Haven't been for the whole time I've owned the bike. It's got the X-Pipe, Moto X-Pipe, MGO reverse cone mufflers, Unipod filters. Runs pretty good, I guess. Pretty good is kinda where it's at. I actually have heated gear on it. This helps immensely for riding. And the truth is I'm kinda going to the dealer at the moment. I mean, not kinda, I am. Because we have another coolant leak. So we're gonna talk about this bike as I make my way to the Triumph dealer, which is about 30 miles away. I'll be dropping the bike off. We'll talk about how well it runs and all that jazz and everything I've done to it. So I've had the bike for about 18 months now, and it's been a really good bike for the most part. I mean, it's had its issues. So I'm going in and I'm bringing in, as I've noticed, a coolant smell coming from this area of the bike. I had my plexi fairing on. I actually took it off because we were expecting snow, and I'm basically decommissioning the T120 for the season. The season's pretty much done here in Vermont. It's November 8th, I believe. So it's just time to retire the T120, and it is cold. It's like 32, I believe, 31 degrees currently. So it's cold. Anyways, the good, the bad, the not so great about this bike. First off, let's just go over the good. The bike is just phenomenal. Cruise control, heated hand grips, ABS, traction control, wheelie control, which I don't like all that much, but it's there. And it really keeps the bike manageable. It's very, very good. So, out of the box, out of the crate, it comes with a lot of awesome things that not a lot of Japanese bikes in the comparison come with. And I wouldn't really put this in the same class as the Japanese bikes, more as in the same class as like, Harley Davidson Sportster or whatnot, because it's just kind of like one of these iconic, modern classic motorcycles. It's really not a standard motorcycle, although it is a standard motorcycle. It acts like it's not a standard, a retro classic motorcycle. It acts like a standard bike. That's why I bought it, because it was just a good, well-rounded motorcycle. It just was a motorcycle. So, bike runs good for the most part. I'm going in for the coolant issue. It's had two other recalls, or not recalls, but warranty issues. The first was the radiator went bye-bye. And I noticed a small weep around 12,000 miles. I had the bike for a couple months at this point, maybe 3 months. And I was riding the ever-living snot out of it. Getting into the summertime, peak heat season of riding in Vermont, July-ish. And noticed the bike was leaking coolant and overheating, and I'd have to top off the coolant. It was getting kind of annoying. So I found a leak at one of the mounting tabs on the radiator, and so I brought it in and they replaced the radiator and it was no problem. About a month down and they replaced the radiator. So that was no problem. Bike was back up and running. Finishing the season up, it was about September, October, you know, the last prime of the riding in Vermont. October, you've got that beautiful fall foliage, and it's really a great time to take your Triumph Bonneville out and enjoy the beautiful foliage on a beautiful motorcycle. But unfortunately, the transmission let go at 20,000 miles. Now, Triumph did stand behind the product, and I gotta say, National Power Sports. So National Power Sports, where I bought this Triumph in Pembroke, New Hampshire, you know, they really worked with me to try to get it back over there for service. The transmission was definitely blown. They thought it was the gear or sprocket and chain problem, which I totally told them right out of the box. It's like, this is, right off the bat, I was like, this is not a chain and sprocket problem. This is a transmission problem because it's only in 6th gear that it happens. So they brought the bike back to Pembroke. It was out for another month or so. They split the case. Sure enough, 6th gear had shattered or sheared a couple teeth, and it looked like all the bearings in the output shaft assembly were pretty much worn out and gone and done. So they replaced it under warranty at 20,000 miles, and I was on my merry way. So this season, I got the bike, put a big gear on it. I'm at 45,000 miles. Right now it seems to be having a small coolant weepage I can smell. I'm losing coolant, it's overheating. So that happened just recently after a 1,300 to 13 mile weekend and a lot of really varying temperature, mostly cold and wet rain. So I'm not sure if something got brittle and broke, but definitely having some kind of coolant issue. I can smell it. So I'm going to have the dealer check it out, because we have a new dealer now in Vermont, CycleWise, and these guys are awesome. They take really good care of me. They're going to take a look at the bike for me before warranty expires next April, because you got a 2-year unlimited mile warranty on all Triumph Bonnevilles. So I've done 2 20,000 mile services on this bike. The first 20,000 mile service was done when the transmission was out and the motor was apart. So they did the valves. 7 out of the 8 valves were out of adjustment. They were too tight. So they re-shimmed them and put them within spec. I did the 40,000 mile valve adjustment or valve check, and the valves were within spec. They were not too loose, but they were definitely not too tight. So that was good to go. I also recommend every 20,000 miles to replace the fuel filter, which they did at my 20,000 mile service, and I kind of neglected to do it at the 40,000 mile service. The bike started having fueling issues, and just replacing the fuel filter, which is an internal unit, just replacing that cleared it up. It runs great. So the good on this bike is, I've got to say, if it didn't have these issues, I would have nothing to complain about it. But I really wanted to state that this bike should definitely be serviced every 5,000 miles. When the transmission blew at 20,000, the dealer was like, look man, we basically set this service interval for 10,000 miles or 1 year, with most people just coming in every year and changing their oil and maybe putting 3,000 to 5,000 miles on their bike a year, maybe 10 tops. They're like, we're not expecting people to put 2 oil changes or 20,000 miles on this bike a year. So, you know, as the dealer, they said they'd still cover it under warranty, but for the longevity of the motor and transmission, they recommended that I went to a 5,000 mile oil change maintenance schedule, which I am now at. As you can see, my indicator is off. I don't have a spanner. but I do all my own services. I got the OBD, it's called the Tune ECU app. It is a Bluetooth OBD2 reader, and I can connect with the ECU on my T120, and I can reset the maintenance schedules. So the light now goes off every 5,000 miles instead of 10,000, so I can remind myself to do my oil changes at 5,000 miles. Perfect, nice app. I mean, I think I paid like $18 for the app and like $40 for the scanner. But now I can see when it throws codes, if it throws codes. It honestly has never thrown codes. And I can scan the ECU, see what's going on. I can reset the maintenance. I can do the ABS. It'll cause the pump to actuate, so you can actually do your own brake fluid adjustment, brake fluid changes through the ABS pump, which is kind of a pain in the neck if you don't have that tool, which now I have because you have the ECU tune. So it's a really nice piece of software. Highly recommend it. You can also reflash the ECU, so when they say you do your exhaust and you turn the bike on, let it idle until the cooling fan kicks on, and that resets the ECU. Well, you can do that through ECU tune now, so you don't have to heat the bike up. You can just set the ECU, reset it, so it's ready to learn the new map, the new fueling. I run the pod filters. They're Uni pods. I maintain them every 5,000 miles with a clean wash and oil. I have had no issues with these pod filters. I started out with the cheap pod filters, and they did let a lot of dirt through. So, going back, wow, isn't that beautiful, guys? Absolutely stunning. Going back to the filters, I was going in and checking them every 10,000 miles with the oil change, and I was like, ooh, boy, these are getting crummy. So I've always had really good luck with Uni filters, especially on dirt bikes and such. And they impressed me, so I decided to, hey, why not? Give it a whirl, right? Give it a shot. So I got the Uni pod filters, and I have loved them. They do not let any dirt or grime through. They breathe a lot better, and the bike has a lot more power. And she accelerates really good. And like I said, I've got that aftermarket exhaust on as well. So touring-wise, this bike does well. It is probably one of the better bikes I've had for touring, just because of that bloody cruise control. It is just makes the world so much better having cruise. So fin finish is good. Still, actually, we've got some really big bluing happening on the exhausts, and there's a little bit of rust and patina building up on the inside of the exhaust pipe. And that's something to take note on. One thing I have to say I'm really impressed is that since I bought this bike, I've done the tubeless conversion on the rims. They still work great. 45,000 miles. I mean, I've converted the rims at like 2,000 or 3,000 miles. So the conversion works phenomenal. Just make sure you change out your valve stems every year or so. But there's been no leaks or problems. The stock tires I just can't recommend at all because they just aren't that great. So I'm running a combination of Michelin Road 4 GTs front and Pilot Road 5 in the rear. And I absolutely love that combination. It does very well. Yep. So the bike does move pretty good, and I have a good gearing setup on it. I am on my third chain and sprockets on the bike. The first lasted about 23,000 miles, and at that point, the rear sprocket sheared. I used A&J Cycles sprocket set, and I didn't go back to them. And ended up going to the Sprocket Center instead, and they're just way better at Sprocket Center because they offered a forged steel lightweight setup, which is just so much better, guys. So the front the rear sprocket from A&J Cycles sheared at about 23,000 miles. I changed the sprockets right when I bought this bike, just because it's just geared so tall. And that time I was running a 1639, and it was pretty good. I noticed some hooking on the 16th sprocket, the front sprocket from the Thruxton, by the time the chain and sprocket was done at 23,000 miles. So I swapped over to the forged Vortex, I believe is the company brand. I can't, don't quote me. This is the company brand, and that's what I'm using for the sprockets from the Sprocket Center, and they're great. They're lightweight forged steel. I've got a 17 in the front now and a 43 in the rear, so the gearing is about the same, but I'm running a little wider, bigger sprockets, which helps with chain life. This chain was toast. The last chain was toast at 20,000 miles. I did it again at 20,000 mile service. So at 43,000 miles, the chain and sprockets were done, and I replaced them. And I'm on my third set. I'm running the 43 17 again. I liked how it felt. It's smoother. The chain doesn't talk as much. Less prone to stretching. It didn't stretch. I just replaced it because I could have rode it a little more, but in my eyes it was just like, you know, better safe than sorry, kind of. I didn't want to strip out another rear sprocket. So, I mean, it's really 20,000, every 20,000 miles or so, you're looking to replace the chain and sprockets. This is kind of just one of those things you do on leader bikes. My Bandit 1200, my FZ1, they all ate sprockets at 20,000 miles. It just needed a new set. No matter what you did to it, no matter how much lube or cleaning you did or not do, it just seemed like every 20,000 miles it was done. I'm kind of an aggressive rider, so I ride touring. I do touring. I do 1,000-mile days, which is really hard on chains because they get really hot and they can dry out, and that's what kills chains. Really, it's just them getting hot and dry. So I would just highly recommend just keeping your eyes peeled at 20,000 miles for doing the chain and sprockets. And yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. I'm running a KG top rack with a Givi Moto key plate, and that's basically I did that because basically it's the best freaking thing you got for dry storage. Those Givi top cases, mine's a 53 liter, I believe. It just never leaks. I've never had it leak, knock on wood. They're ridiculously robust. I've been in, the other one I have on my TU250X, I have two top cases. That thing's been through 2 wrecks. It gone through 2 total bikes, and it still works. Sure, the lock, I had to drill it out. The lock doesn't work anymore, but it's waterproof, and I am completely confident that, you know, I don't have to worry about it leaking. So, Givi top case, and it is kind of funky, and I get it all the time. It looks so weird. I'm like, you know what, guys? Like, I put 30,000 miles on my motorcycles a year. You know, my T120 is not my only one, and I need dry storage because it rains a lot where I live. So, that being said, the T120, boiling down, 45,000 miles. What can I say? Is it worth the money? Is it worth purchasing? Well, it all depends on what you do with it. Personally, I'm going into the area where I won't have warranty, and it's kind of scary for me because without the warranty, I'm kind of going to have to pay for a lot of these things on my own. Luckily, I know how to fix a lot of things on my own, so, you know, I can rebuild water pumps, I can do valves, I can do chain and sprockets, tires, everything. I do everything and anything on a motorcycle. But, you know, transmission goes, again, okay, what do I do at this point? Do I rebuild it? Do I send it in? You know, what happens? I'm not sure. And that's where I'm kind of at a crossroads is, yes, this bike is exceptionally great. It runs good. It isn't I know I've had some conversations on the Bonneville forums on Facebook, the Bonneville groups, you know, and a lot of guys are like, you know, the fact is that you put this many miles on a motorcycle, it's, you know, you put this many miles on a motorcycle, you're gonna have problems. But that's not true. My Japanese bikes, you know, my Bandit 1200, my buddy bought for me for $1,000, and it's got 96,000 miles, and they're my miles. Most of them are my miles, and I'm not easy on that. And same with my old FZ1. I beat the ever living crap out of it, and I mean I'm young. I was younger than I am now, and I'm way less hard on the T120 than I was on my FZ1. And the T120 just seems to keep recurring issues. It's a tough call. Now, do I recommend someone to buy a T120? Yes. You're not. Most people aren't me. Most people put 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles on their bike a year, and that's good. And the bike's never gonna get overworked. It's never gonna see lots of miles. It's not gonna be under the throttle of this maniac. So it's probably gonna hold up just fine. I could recommend one, but I do weigh with caution that this thing is not a Japanese motorcycle. True, the Triumph is chasing after the Japanese brands and trying to make something very reliable and sleek and beautiful, and it is. It's just, look at it, it's just the lines are so gorgeous. I love this bike. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But it is just not the best reliability bike I've ever owned, by a long shot. So yes, I recommend you buy one. I recommend it as anything. It's a great commuter bike. It's a great cruiser bike, bar hopper bike. It just goes, but it's gonna have issues if you push it too hard, and you know, just keep wary of it. I think they still got some issues to shake out on this this particular water-cooled setup. I'm afraid that they're pushing out a lot of these water-cooled variants, and the motor is just not 100% there yet. I mean, it's very reliable. It's good. The power's there, but it's just not there. You know, it's really showing some weak links, and I just hope they resolve that for the future. Will I sell or trade in my T120? Definitely not. I plan to keep this thing until it doesn't run anymore, which could be next year. Who knows? But I hope not anyways. Just because I love it. It's so brash. It's got this awesome rawness that you just don't get with other kind of motorcycles. It's very much like riding a Harley, but it's faster and handles better. So it's definitely something to consider when you have this motorcycle. So will I buy another Bonneville Triumph? Probably not. Do I recommend a Triumph Bonneville? Yes. So that's where I'm at with my T120. That's my little story here. I'm on my way to the dealer. I dropped this puppy off, and hope, you know, everything's okay with it. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to know about the bike, just shoot me an email at jedz@jedzmoto.com. I usually answer my emails as fast as I can. Doesn't always happen as fast as I'd like, but I do my very best. And then, yeah, follow me, like, subscribe. I will probably put out more T120 videos. Unfortunately, the season is just about end. Make sure you stay tuned for the multi-channel madness series that's coming out. A lot of fun. I had a lot of fun meeting up with a bunch of guys, so check that out. Check out my buddies at other medias located below. And thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys are considering T120s. Get kind of understand what you're getting into when you get into the Bonneville, water-cooled Bonneville line. And don't be discouraged, but weigh some caution in your decision. If you really are interested in a Triumph Bonneville as your motorcycle, you gotta ask yourself how many miles you put on. What is it going to be worth it, or is it not? And on that note, guys, thanks for tuning in. Keep your shiny side up out there. Be safe. Thanks. Best.